Very good morning, my dear students. Today we will have a discussion on fabric spreading, which is the first topic of our garment manufacturing technology. First of all, let us understand why we need fabric spreading. What is it? Why we need everything? We should understand. We should understand everything. For example, if you take a garment industry, we will not get the fabric in the open form or in the liquid form. So at that time, we may not be able to make it everything perfect when it is entered into the cutting department or something. First case. Second case, if you see raw materials, whichever you are getting for a garment industry, it is not in the form of high quality as we expected. For example, if any buyer is giving one color, we will not get the same color for the entire roll of fabric or entire bundle of fabric. So we need to understand before the fabric enters into the garment factory, we should have a clear cut analysis on the or inspection on the raw material. Why we should do that? The second case is, suppose if I have a fabric, I'm making it to pass it for fabric spreading or making it to pass it for construction of garment and everything. Finally, if I find out the shade is not correct, there is a defect piece, or there is some stain on the material, or the slackness or excess piece, or there is no proper dye. If I found after finishing or after identifying the garment, if I found it, then the cost involved in the production of such one piece of a garment is totally waste. So to avoid that, we will do inspection on the fabric material when it is enters. Okay, when I am making the fabric or when you are making the fabric enters into the garment industry, do we be able to use those fabrics just like that? No, because if you take a fabric, the fabric maybe in the folded form, or it may have some kind of a foldings or some kind of a surplus length, or it may have some tension variation or slackness or something you will get on the material. So to avoid that, we must understand how the fabric should be utilized before which is entered into the fabric. So fabric spreading is required to understand all these aspects. At the same time, we will also do a kind of inspection when we prepare lay. So let us see now. For example, you take spreading, spreading or fabric spreading you take. For example, spreading is the process of superimposing length of fabric on a spreading table, cutting table, or specially designed a surface in the preparation for cutting process. For example, if I want to produce a garment, t-shirt, or if I want to produce salwar, or if I want to produce trouser, or if I want to produce a skirt, I cannot use a single piece for the bulk order. For example, you take the retail shops, where you will get the same style, same design, same raw material is used, same zipper, everything is same, but you will get size from XS to double XL or triple XL. So the size variation alone is you are getting. So that means that particular style of the garment is produced in different size and multiple order. For example, you take lifestyle stores or max fashion, or you take trends. If you go, every shops, whether you see it in Erode or you see it in Coimbatore or you see it in Bangalore or Delhi, wherever you go, those shops will have a similar styles. So that means there is a bulk production of a garment. So when you want to do bulk production, the fabric need to be checked and fabric need to be laid on the table, because multiple sizes we are going to produce. So for that you have to lay the fabric for longer length, because the industry meant for bulk order production. It is not doing like a tailor made. For example, tailor made in the sense, you are going to the tailor shop and you are giving your measurements and you are stitching your garment. That process we are not doing in case of a garment industry. So what you are doing is, you are going to lay a fabric on the table, lay one over the other. For example, this is first lay, and over this you will keep one more layer of fabric. Like this you will keep every fabric pieces one over the other. So one over the other, we call it in the other name of the name of this one we call it. The name of this one we call it superimposing length of fabric on the spreading table. The table which is meant for spreading purpose only, or it may be meant for cutting purpose. So superimposing of length of fabric on a spreading table, cutting table, or specially designed. For example, specially designed means what we can say. For how we will be able to identify whether this table is specially designed. For example, you are sitting on the table, your desk, right? You see your desk, that is one surface. Similarly, you see the platform, that is one kind of a material. Similarly, for spreading a fabric, we use a cardboard on the surface. Thereby, the fabric will not distort or it will not move when we spread the fabric. So that's why it's mentioned that the table, it may be a spreading table, or it may be a cutting table, or specially designed surface for preparation of cutting process. So such tables will be used for spreading a length. What is the maximum length we make? We may go for 10 meter length, or we may go for 5 meter length, or we may go for 4 meter length. Depends on the number of pieces what I am going to produce, or depends on my marker length. Based on that, the fabric length will be decided on that. Okay. So once the table, you arrange the table, then you lay the fabric. That laying process we call it spreading process. And laying process is not only one lay. You will have a maximum of 165 pieces or maximum of 100 pieces of fabric will be laid for the maximum length. For example, your office, now you are sitting in a classroom. The length of the classroom may be 60 square meter. 60 square meter means you just think, 66 square meter means you just think for that length, whether in the widthwise or lengthwise, if you consider, for example, I need only 30 meter length. So the table will be for 30 meter and the fabric will be laid for 30 meter. Over that, one over the other, fabrics will be superimposed. That process we call it spreading. A spread or layer is the total amount of fabric prepared for single marker. That's what I said. The length of the fabric is decided based on the single marker. What is a single marker? In a single marker, you will have X size, XS, that is very smallest size of the garment to the maximum size. For example, t-shirt. The person who are sitting in the classroom, you see, you will not have the same body size, but you would like to go for a different, same style of a garment. So, the size of every individual will be taken and that will be considered as a one marker. Whether sleeve piece or collar piece or body piece or whatever the case, one single garment, how many pieces? It may have 8 pieces means. Those 8 pieces of all sizes should get accommodated in single marker. That length of fabric will be laid on the table. So that process we call it spreading. Okay. When I do spreading, what I should check? What I should do? For example, there may be certain requirements, right? So let's see one by one. First one is requirement of spreading process. If you take, first one is shade sorting of cloth pieces, whether batching or dialogue. For example, why we need to do shade sorting? See, for production of bulk quantity, we may not use 1 meter fabric or 2 meter fabric or something. We may need thousands of meters. It is not say a single piece or it can accommodate just 100 meters itself. It is not like that. When you say shade sorting of pieces for batch means it is not 1 meter or something. It goes for thousands of meters, right? When you say thousands of meters, that will become a batch. Is it possible for us to produce? 1,000 meter of fabric in a one machine? Not possible. We may go for 100 meters or 500 meters in one machine, 500 meters in another machine. If it is for 1,000, if it is for lakh meter of fabric, that is 1 lakh meter of fabric, if you take, is it possible to make it one slot and the dye solution can be prepared for one slot? Not possible. So whenever you change the batch or whenever you change the solution, there is a possibility of human error and possibility of making a dissolution percentage, concentration of variation will occur. So that concentration of variation will create shade variation on your fabric. That results variation. For example, one portion 5% shade you will get, one portion 4% shade you will get, one portion you will get 10% shade variation, because the material which is just entering at the initial raw solution, that will have a very good shade. The material which is inserted at the last point after the number of usage, if you pass the new material, surely that will have a shade variation. So that shade variation we should identify and we should reject before which is spread on the table. Why we should reject it? Customer or your buyer will not accept the shade variation which is coming on the material, because for example, I am a Disney order, I am giving an order for the company and I ask you to produce a brand of Disney brands, and I am asking you to go for a 5% shade of rose color, which is a reactive dye. So all fabric sample or all samples or all products which you are producing, that should have a same 5% shade. Maybe the buyer might give you plus or minus 1% shade variation or 0.5% shade variation is accepted. That means 5.5% is accepted, 4.5% is accepted. It may be, it should not go below 4.5 and above 5.5. That is a tolerance limit. Within the tolerance limit, if I check the garments, if it is having this beyond this limitation, if it is having a limits, if it is having a variation, that product will be rejected. So just think, if it is 100 pieces for 1000 piece, you just think what will be the loss we get in the industry. So to avoid that loss, we are going for shade sorting before the fabric spread on the table. Second one, correct ply direction, adequate lay stability. What is correct ply direction? You have a grey fabric, you have a printed design fabric, you have an embroidery design fabric, you have a velvet fabric. How we are going to use this fabric when we do the laying process? For example, I have a plain fabric, means it does in a back side and face side, it has a different style. In a vertical side also it has a similar design, and horizontal design also it may. That means when I rotate the fabric for any direction, it is possible to get same design effect. That means you need not to bother about direction of the fabric which you are laying. Say example, printed design. I have a circle, if it is a circle design and it is arranged in a vertical way or it is arranged in a diagonal way, that time you should consider, or sometimes a triangle or sometimes a butterfly. Printed design, I am talking about the printed design on the fabric. So when you take that particular kind, you have to see whether the direction of the design is arranged in every lay of the fabric. For example, one lay will have one design, one direction, another lay will have another design, another direction. Means when you make a cutting, that particular piece will go as a waste. To avoid that, we need to have a correct ply direction. What is the adequate stability? All fabric will not give you similar stability when you lay it one over the other. Good example is, you take a satin fabric which has a slippery behavior, right? So can you lay it one over the other of multiple pieces, like 100 piece, 200 piece, like that? Not possible, right? So it depends on the raw material of the fabric and depends on the design. You have to consider the correct ply direction or adequate lay stability. Then alignment of plies. What is the alignment of ply? Are we considering this alignment of ply at one edge? Yes. Edges of the fabric should be straight. When I lay first fabric, first lay for 30 meter, when I lay 100th lay for 30 meter, the arrangement, edge should be finished at the proper end. If it is not in a proper way, what will happen? The fabric which is surplus at the edge will be left out as an excess, or sometimes it may affect the garment design. To avoid that, we may consider this factor. Then correct ply tension, relaxation MC with positive fit. For example, correct ply tension. I have a table, you are placing a fabric one over the other, right? Maybe when you apply a tension, what you are doing, first lay you will consider, yes, there is no slackness, there is no tension variation, every piece of the fabric is laid perfect. Okay. Suppose if I am placing the second fabric, will it not disturb the base fabric? Sure, it will have a possibility of disturbing. Such a way, when I go for a 10 lay or 50 lay or 30 lay or 100th lay, if I go, there is a possibility of variation on the tension. To avoid such variation, I should consider the tension of every piece of lay which I am placing on that spreading table must be considered effectively. If not, what happens? If the tension is varying on the surface of the table, if not, what happens? For example, if the tension varies, when the tension varies means one portion of this fabric is highly tensed, one portion of the fabric is less tense and relaxed in state. You understand? So that time when I make a cutting, the size variation will occur when I am producing a fabric. You understand? So to avoid that particular problem, every lay must be kept with the proper tension in a relaxed state, but proper tension must be given, depends on the fabric. For example, the tension which I am applying on the woven fabric, the tension which I am applying on the knitted fabric may not be the same. So we have to consider optimized tension for the type of fabric what we are using, style of a garment what you are going to produce. Based on that, the tension must be applied and the correct ply tension should be followed on the material. Okay. Then elimination of fabric faults. Make through cut out of thread, sort, recut, display fault, portion on screen. Everything is possible. For example, when I am laying every single piece of a lay, I will be able to identify all these facts like a shade sorting, small missing ends or small loop is missed, or some tuck formation is there, some shade variation is there, some stain is there. All those things I can identify. Right? If it is happening, defect is achieved, that particular portion of the fabric should be removed and then it should be laid on the fabric. Okay? Then elimination of static electricity. What is this elimination of static electricity? How many of you know about static electricity? Right. For example, in case of elimination of static electricity, what we will do is, you might have seen, you take a synthetic saddle, put it in sunlight, right, for 4 to 5 hours or 6 hours of the sunlight, then you take it and put it on your arm. When you see that, the hairs of your arm will try to straighten up. That particular process, we call it static electricity. You understand? We get on the physically. Similarly, when I place a lay, there is a possibility of that, because when you place that material, the hairs will never allow your fabric to touch your surface. Same way, the kind of a reflection due to the poles, it will happen on the raw material. So to avoid that, eliminate that particular static electricity, we need to consider whether that fabric is having static electricity behavior or not. We should test. Then we also need to test when we place one over the other, whether it has a kind of a proper fitting or not. We have to check. If not, we need to correct that problem. Then only we have to lay it. Okay. With this, let me stop. We will have a discussion on the next class on the further parameters. Thank you.